Yes, indeed. Got one of the early disco records. A lot of people don't consider this a disco record, but to me, this is this is definitely a prelude to the stuff that Gamble and Huff will be producing in 1973, 1974, 1975. But the Trammps ahead of the curve in the summer of 1972. Billboard's Hot 100, July 29th, 1972. Let's go to it right now. The Trammps Sing With the Strings of My Heart at number 75 on Billboard's Hot 100, July 29th, 1972. And guess what song was above that? Starman by David Bowie, that was at 74. Starting All Over Again, On Its Way Up by Mel and Tim at number 73. And Everybody Plays the Fool by Main Ingredient at number 72. It's on its way up as well. And After Midnight by J.J. Cale at number 71. It's on its way down. But the Trammps at number 75. This would be their first hit. And boy, it's a magnificent dance record. They're getting into that disco inferno act all the way back into the summer of 1972. This record was originally done back in 1934. Judy Garland recorded several versions of this song back in the 30s, a couple for a movie, and she recorded a version for Decca Records written by a guy named James F. Hanley. It was written for a Broadway revue called Thumbs Up, which was back in late 1934. Then the Trammps, they got a hold of it. The Trammps, uh, although some people considered the Trammps' first disco record was Love Epidemic. That was in 1973. But that's where the happy people go. That's my favorite, one of my favorite Trammps records in 1976. And of course, they did the Disco Inferno in 1978. This record was produced. Well, they worked with one thing. I know it's a little confusing. Earl Young, the bass singer. Notice he does that little 50s thing, that little 50s doo-wop thing when he does his thing on this song. He was a drummer. He came up with he put a sort of a disco slant on rock drumming, considered an innovator. And along with Ronnie Baker and Norman Harris, these guys, they were mainstays of Mother, Father, Brother, Sister, the studio musicians, the nucleus of Sigma Sound Studios of the 70s, the famed Sigma Sound Studios, the epicenter of the sound of Philadelphia. Boy, it's just, I love Earl Young. I love that bass singing. Boy, he's doing that 50s thing. They evolved from a group called the Volcanoes back in the 60s as well. Well, let's go back to the record. Let's go to the chart action of this record. Unfortunately, it was not a big hit. The disco thing maybe a little bit too ahead of the curve for pop radio in 1972. It peaked at 64. It's up 4 from 79 the previous week at number 75. It was on Billboard's Hot 100 for 11 weeks. The Trammps, Disco Inferno guys, Sing, the record Sing With the Strings of My Heart. Trammps, redoing a song going back to the 1930s.